pushing proof into the pitch of fire until you see a Come on, you know we're gonna break through. Come on,
Welcome everyone. We are back here with the WREC Championship Finals, and we're gonna be held with the last best of 3 of the day. Now it's do or die, it's swim or sink.
This
definitely.
is it, right? Like this is it. These games are the best in my opinion because right, like the games that we had before were like, yeah, sure. The first game was really good, by the way, but the second and the third game, you could lose. It's okay, but now it's not okay anymore. If you lose, it's over. Like you go home.
Literally, you go home. You get to fly back home because there is no more chances. Come on, you get to live that best of 3 by casting. It was crazy. So, what do you think after of Team Queso after casting those games?
I mean, I think Queso has shown very good side of themselves. But I also think they had so many things to improve in terms of drafting. So hopefully for this series, they'll fix that and, win 2-0.
Are we going to get feel back like the Team Queso that depends completely from Andreset? Or we are going to get the second version, like the more flexible one, the one that has this spicy peak such the Singe?
I think, obviously, this series of the match with Team Queso against NASR is going to be completely different from the rest of the series. The nerves are really on now. Whoever loses one is going to go home. So I think we're going to see a completely different game today.
Yeah, definitely. And on the other side, we have NASR that they have a very rough start today. They got 0-2 versus WREC. It's, I think, the hardest beginning of a day that you could ever ask in this tournament.
There was light at the end of the tunnel, however, because
Yes,
I want to talk
there
about
was.
something. NASR actually won early game, both games.
Yes.
I'm not sure if anyone realized, well, we realized because we were casting and analyzing it, but both games, NASR won the early game pretty convincingly. They were ahead by like 1 or 1.5k gold in a few minutes. So it's just about keeping that momentum up. And I feel against a team like Team Queso, it may be a little easier to do than against WREC, because we know WREC, very calm and collective, very good team.
Kamaline is offended.
They're very calm and collective, very good team, and then against Team Queso, they could actually hold it up and possibly take the series.
Kamen, I think you have something to say.
I'm going to take Hellas out now to fight. So come on, sorry.
If you're gonna fight, you fight outside. So please, I mean, I have the Darius axe and also Jack's weapon. If you want to fight with weapons.
I want Darius's Nox and guillotine, please.
You want the
Please.
Nox and guillotine? Okay, understandable. I would say way more powerful, but
Yeah, I don't need a
we
real
can
weapon to win.
Hello, Jax.
No, don't fight, guys. Please don't spill blood on the
I love
analyst desk. I want it clean, as clean as possible. So, yeah, the fact is that I think I really don't agree with you by saying like Team Queso is more affordable or something like that. Like conquering the elegant. Like Team Queso proved themselves in the last best of 3 being, a team that is gonna be, a contender to take this championship, but it is the fact that they make mistakes and that NASR can take advantage of them.
And I just feel like Team Queso is one of those teams that, the more games they play, the better they get. Like, they'll start to understand like what is working and what is not working. Because obviously the first game, the triple support didn't work, right? Like it didn't work. But now they found out, hey, wait, we can put Joey on an ADC. And I assume they're going to do it again here against NASR Esports. And I feel they may even bring out some other ADCs like the Kaisa, for example, or like the Varus. And this is where I feel that Team Queso starts to shine. And I just hope they can keep it up because I love Team Queso.
Yeah, really, but this is a game that is played by 2 teams, and NASR has something to say. They have a very strong top side of the map, and this is where they are willing to play through.
Yeah, for sure. In the first game, we saw very instability in the mid lane. WREC actually died a lot of times alone in the side lane. Didn't really do a good job. Swist and him tried to make a lot of plays, but didn't really work out. I think this game they have to be way more decisive in what they're gonna do, because if they play like the first game against WREC, they're gonna get stomped by TQ as well. So I hope we're gonna see them be more coordinated today, because well, we can't have the mid lane going 0-3 again.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Carmen, do you want to say something? Like you feel offended all the time.
Well, excuse me, are you calling me sensitive?
I mean, I know you are with the Team Queso guys.
What?
Yeah, are you not? Are you not? With the Team Queso?
Why
You are fully
no,
impartial.
with
You're
my
fully
vibe?
impartial. Okay. I'm not offended. Okay, my bad. My body here. I mean. You can underestimate neither of these teams, considering they made it to this very tournament. So it feels like, yeah, Team Queso is gonna be the favorite, but they need to polish up some things. Maybe take care of that early game, for example. That NASR is really dangerous.
Yes.
I mean, I remember the first game versus WREC, like taking 2 scatter crabs. Also, the vision net was really efficient from the side of NASR. Tracking down, like actually undressed it, may be a problem for Team Queso.
You know, and I feel like this playstyle from NASR may work out better against Team Queso, especially if Team Queso decides to funnel a lot of gold into Andres yet again, because they're really good at rotating, especially in the early game. If they're able to take away a lot of gold from Andres, like as I said, it could be easier for them to snowball the game against Team Queso.
Yeah, definitely. Carmen, what do you want to say about it?
I
I feel you have to share the joke with the whole classroom.
Actually, I want to talk about NASR and how they came back from a 2-0 series versus Parlay Esports and turned it into a 3-2 in their favor. So I don't think this should be underestimated, despite Hell saying that constantly.
Stop, please. Hells, don't underestimate.
Yeah, I have my opinion,
But
and I
the
stand
fact
by my
is
opinion.
that is true. I mean, it's not easy to overcome a 0-2 against you. You need to put up a huge fight to recover and to put a river sweep on the table. And that's why NASR is here in Rio. They are warriors.
NASR is coming in as the champions of Turkey. It's not to be messed around with.
Yeah.
They have shown for a very long time that they're the best team in Turkey, and they have amazing players. But Team QQ has amazing players as well. We see actually the lineup right here on the screen. Acolyte and Dressed, Veas and Joris Gex and Mesmod. I mean, there is not a weak link here. It's 5 amazing players, and NASR really has to do the best to keep it up. I think one of the interesting matchups here is that both WREC and Veas today has been kind of iffy in the early game. Both have been caught out a lot, dying solo and dying to the junglers. So I think maybe the mid lane is going to be the most volatile matchup, because both of them have shown a lot of weaknesses today, but we know they're great players. So whoever is going to step up might actually be the difference to take the win.
Maybe we'll get to see those suppressed clips popping off in this series. But let's put it that way, because there are a lot of storylines, merging in here. We have like NASR trying to make it to the playoff stage, facing a very tough group, and on the other side we have Team Queso that are willing to go back to the international stage to prove themselves once again. And the fact is that if you lose this game, you're not gonna be there.
Yeah, you gotta reach top 3, and this is the first place where you can get out. But like, even if you win this, you're not quite there yet. But of course, this is a hurdle that you have to overcome, and it's gonna be a rough one for both of them.
It would be really sad for Team Queso to like actually not get it, but it's time to put everything on the table.
Everything.
Both teams can't be saving more aces under the sleeve. You have to bring everything right now.
And I want to say one other thing, by the way, Noah, because the
beauty, Hells.
The beauty about these matches is, right, like teams could actually leave their secret picks still back, but now they can't.
No,
because let's say Team Queso has some secret picks still, right? And they're down 1-0 against NASR. They have to bring them out, because these are going to be the best picks that they have, and it's not going to be the secret picks anymore.
Guys, enough chat. Oh, Carmeline, do you want to say something before?
I forgot.
You forgot. Okay, now you have time to think about it. Because guys, enough chat. It's time to welcome our teams, Team Queso and NASR Esports, to the stage. now NASR Esports joins the stage for literally the last chance these two teams have to make it out of groups. Do or die, swim or sink. This is the definition, Rio, of this best of 3 series. No more secrets, all on the table.
Yeah, I mean, we have seen a lot of different picks today, and I hope we will see some more picks from Team Queso that they played in Game 2 and Game 3 instead of Game 1. I think it was quite boring watching 3 support with a hyper carry jungler, so...
Nah, that was not the most exciting.
I hope we got the guys. I mean, actually, one of the things I want to talk about is that the fact that Methanol was known in the past to be really aggressive jungler. He played Alistar, he played Thresh, he made pace around the map. And now he's stuck on Galio and Lulu, who's reactive champions instead of proactive champions. I want to see more of those proactive champions from Methanol, because I think he's a really smart player about catching people off guard. And he can't really do that on the picks he's been getting.
Cameline, please.
Are you saying that if you play a non-aggressive champion, you're not intelligent?
No. I'm just saying he's not using his strength properly on those champions. I think he's a very smart player. So putting him on a support...
Because he's smart, he shouldn't be playing support and all. I'm kidding.
No, I just think he used to be so good at catching people off guard. His Alistar was known in the whole leaderboard for ranked players. He was the best Alistar on the server. And watching him play Lulu, I mean, it breaks my heart.
Quite a bit, yeah. I can understand, like, when you have a mechanically gifted player, when you get, I mean, when you put them on Yumi, it's like,
Why? No, whoa.
Get Yumi out of the game, please. It's like both games, please. PC edition and mobile edition. Like, I've said that with Yumi. It's like, it's like, I feel it's like toxic. God, you can get to attack her. It's unfair. And she kills him so much.
Yeah, but surprisingly, Yumi, there's more behind Yumi than you think. Like, I did a challenge for myself.
Are you a player by yourself? Are you a player by yourself?
I play everything, and I did a challenge to get Challenger as a support player. And I played a lot of Yumi too. I'm not gonna lie, I initially thought Yumi was a quote-unquote brain dead champion, but after actually playing Yumi, it's surprisingly hard to play on the top level, because you constantly have to decide, okay, do I now need to go out of my teammate to get that passive? But if you get CC'd, you're dead. So those are the things that, you know, we like to say, Yumi, brain dead, blah, blah, but those are the things that we're not seeing. Those are the high-skilled plays that we're not seeing, because when do you get out? When do you get the passive? When do you go back in? Which ally are you supposed to attach to? It's surprisingly hard to play the champion.
Like, the details that define the really, really, really great champions in that kind of, really great players in that kind of champions, and the average ones. So, guys, we talked a lot about this, like, do-or-die game between NASR and Team Queso, but we have Darkbreaker ready with the actual key points of the series.
Yo, thanks Noah. Let's get started with the key points for Team Queso versus NASR. Wait, where's the mic? What do you mean? Where's the mic? Oh, that's what. Oh my god. Okay, for the first point, we have battle of the playstyles in the Baron lane. It's gonna be Sneaky and Acolyte. Sneaky loves to go for the hyper carry champions, and Acolyte with the team-orientated champions. The second one is gonna be Jungler decides the game. He's gonna dictate the pace of the game, and the third point is gonna be mid lane aggressiveness, Vejos versus Ragnar, who is gonna pick off people on the map. And that's about it. And let's hop right to the analyst desk.
Thank you very much, Darkbreaker. All about the mid jungle duo, Hels. What do you think?
Sorry?
All about the mid jungle duo.
It's very important, but I feel like now with Team Queso, you know, before I said it's all about jungle, but now after seeing those games, I feel it's about everything. We saw all of them do very well, and I feel like really now it's going to be all about everything, and I hope that they're going to do the same. I hope they're not going to be playing those funneling compositions again. Just give me some carries on every single row again.
Cameline, would you be excited with another 3 support composition around Undressed?
I mean,
choose your words.
I have to choose my words, and I choose to say your health is wrong, as always. Now, actually, I just think the compositions they've been playing some of them have worked better than others, and this is obvious. But if you look at the second composition in the second map for the last series versus WREC, it's very easy to spot where the strengths were, and that's in giving Acolyte more power, giving Andres a little bit of like a, let's say, less of an important role. It's still quite important, but not the main carry role. And then allowing Joey with a Corki and Methanot there to keep on pushing. Of course, they use with a Singed. So if they are able to repeat that composition, I think they'll be quite powerful, unstoppable.
I mean, I would say like the key is like keep it simple, but keep for yourself like more than one win condition.
Yeah, definitely, because we saw in the game 2 and game 3 the entire of Team Queso are great players. Joris Gags could carry on Corgi, Acolyte could carry on Renekton. So I think putting everything onto Andres' head is probably too much with such great players around him.
Definitely, guys, but enough once again, because now it comes the actual important game, because the last best of 3 of the day is going to be NASR versus Team Queso, and we have ready Stress and Stuart to cast the game.
Thank you very much, Noah and the analyst desk. Oh, this is a do-or-die series now. This is best of 3 to determine who is still in for a shot at the playoffs. Of course, win here and you're in on day 3's games. That still means you're in with a chance for icons. Lose here and you're out. End of the season for our losing team. So we have Team Queso, who narrowly lost to WREC, going up against NASR. Stress with Stuart for this all-important matchup. Stuart, we've had a lot of games today. We've had a lot of different flavors. How do you feel like Queso are going to bounce back after a very close third game against WREC?
Yeah, it's going to be really, really hard for them. I think just such a close loss as well against one of the top teams. WREC was very, very heartbreaking for them, but they can't dwell on that now. I think that's the main thing. They need to mental reset, because this is a big game. I mean, we've already seen Unicorns of Love out the tournament. Now we're going to see a second team out of the tournament on day number 1. I still do think Team Queso do have that little bit of an edge, but now I'm thinking to myself, because of that last loss, like I said, they can't dwell on it, but it could be a big factor going into this as well. But they've picked up these new champions as well, which we haven't seen from them before, like the Singed as well, like the Corki that, Joey's picking up a lot more as well. So it's going to be really interesting to see, what other ideas they have as well against this NASR team, who's had a lot of time to prepare now since that first game.
Yeah, they've been able to watch basically the entire day's games for Queso. There was 3 really close games, and I think that they'll basically, I would imagine, would say, oh, we'll let them draft around Andre. But I was having this conversation with Carmeline where I actually think that's really dangerous, because through all the games we casted for Queso through the regular split, the only teams that really upset the Andre carry style were Game Lord and Queso and WREC. For Team Queso, any team weaker than the top tier just got smothered by Andre in the jungle from minute 1 in the game.
I think that's kind of where the big kind of gap really lies. You got WREC and Game Lorders and big teams, which they have the the coaching staff behind. They have the players as well that are probably a bit more aware of the play style as well of Team Queso, and NASR probably, they probably haven't been scrimming them at all, because obviously they're in the same group, so they probably don't know what to expect. But like you said, NASR coming into this are probably a bit of a weaker team. Team Queso, I would say, are probably favourites in this.
Sure.
And like you said, when Andre gets on these carries, against the teams that maybe don't know too much about it, then he can just run over the entire game.
We've casted NASR against European teams in the past outside of the WREC a little bit, so NASR certainly should be aware of how strong Andre is. I'm sure they felt his wrath out of the jungle. I would say that NASR can be a very aggressive team themselves. Like a lot of invades by Swest, and Sneaky, I think, from the top lane role, has a tendency to try and push limits as much as he can. So that is an option for NASR to play around as a positive, but we have seen it backfire from time to time with Sneaky getting caught out on the side lane.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've watched a few of the games of NASR and everything as well, and I think that's one of the main points, and that's not really what I really saw too much against WREC. So I think they're giving these teams a little bit more respect. But like you said, we're used to seeing NASR in the Turkish scene be a lot more aggressive and try and make these plays players, which, like you said, sometimes can backfire because sometimes they can overstep a little bit, but maybe it's just a LAN environment. It could be, you know, nerves. It could be anything like that. But I think this game, what I want to see from NASR is I want to see them play more aggressive, play with more confidence as well, because they maybe gave REC a little bit too much respect. You know, as Hells was saying on the analyst desk, they did get them early game leads, but they just weren't using that to their advantage. They were just sitting back and letting REC go to them.
Yeah, I think that's a totally fair way of putting it as the players are getting ready for the game. I know the NA casters were talking about thumb sleeves. I'm a sleeves player myself. I have old man thumbs that get really tired on the screen, especially if you're playing on an old phone and it gets really warm. Yeah, that's what I find bad. I've not seen the single sleeve before, but you know, just on the movement one.
Yeah.
So interesting one. I'm learning all sorts of things about like claw grip and all these types of things. I'm just like, I play with 2 thumbs.
Yep, that's
and
me.
That's why I suck.
I feel like the same with both of us. You know, I speak to like you know, DB behind the scenes and the players as well, and they're doing like some crazy claw grip where they use their fingers for the mini map.
We use like, I played FPS, so I actually use like 6 fingers at once on the screen, and I'm like, that's a bit overkill.
Yeah, it's like we just use 2 thumbs, you know, one for the movement, and then you maybe move up to the map sometimes, and then your other thumb for the abilities and the auto attacks. You know, at the end of the day, mobile games, you know, you only need 2 thumbs, but I guess that's where like the extra edge comes in. You know, when you get to use your fingers as well on top of that, you get that little bit, I guess, of an advantage because you can actually move around and have a look around at the mini map whilst also moving at the same time. So maybe we're getting a little few tips ourselves. Maybe we need to.
Do you know what? I think the amount of VP I'll lose if I try and swap to using more than my 2 thumbs, you're going to need better than like the lever protection that's coming on the new patch if I'm in your game trying to do that one. Switching focus again back to NASR and Team Queso. I think the fact that REC is in their group makes this such a different game to play against because I don't think there are too many games that like Snitch as a mid laner gives over weaknesses to the opponents. Whereas I think both Rekna and Veos we've seen struggling a little bit today. And I think if a team can feed off that in mid lane, pick up a couple of kills, I think that's how you easily run away with a game like this, right? Whereas Snitch, he's not giving you anything in the middle lane.
I mean, Snitch is just like, he doesn't matter what he plays, he just feels comfortable in everything. He can just play whatever he wants. He's super comfortable. He doesn't really make any mistakes, but like you said, you know, Reckoner at the start of the day and also Veos in that last series as well, playing Lulu, played Singe twice as well. I think the Singe was a little bit better in the second and the third game, but I think that's just like, we're kind of seeing how the meta's evolving already, and it's only been day 1. You know, we've been seeing a lot of more AD carries. We've been seeing a lot of Singed mid lane, which was being played in China quite a lot as well. But as we say that, we're going to get into picks and bans for game number 1. So I think for me, like, you know, the mid lane point, I want to try and see if Team Queso will allow Veos to get play on these assassins. Me and you, we've seen what Veos can do on a Kali. Like, if this guy can pop off, okay, they just ban it themselves.
They ban it themselves. They're like, we don't even need a Kali to win this. I mean, Rekna, he's got a pretty deep champion pool from what we've heard speaking to some of the other players and the way that we've done our prep for NASR. So no surprise that a big assassin like that is taken off the board. If we see the Singed, I think we'll get a little deeper into this, but I want to kind of talk a little bit as this game goes on about safe mid lane champions and how they affect the game, but we'll focus on this draft for now. The Lulu mid just drew a ban. I mean, we did see Methanol play it as a support. Obviously, we've seen a lot of Lulu, Olaf, that kind of thing, but these are some different bans. We've normally seen a lot of Camille, a lot of Olaf ban. Camille or Olaf will be available in this game.
Yeah, Camille or Olaf, and also Yumi as well, which I think didn't get banned in the last game of the last series, and Team Queso didn't pick up. It's a triple support ban for NASR, and you know what I actually like about this? It actually opens up a lot. Like you said, you know, the Gragas is still open, the Graves is also still open, the Camille is still open. That's 100% going to be the first pick. I mean, I spoke to a little bit about Random about this as well. It's like, when Camille is open, you have to first pick the champion. Even after all the nerfs that she's got as well, it's just her kit is super safe, and we get to see our first Senna. It's been banned quite a lot as well. Like you said, potentially Galio. Gragas as well is also another combo. Nasus we've seen as well with Senna. We'll have to see if they're going to pick that up now.
The reason I say Galio is I always default back to like our January, February meta where Camille Galio was incredibly strong. Swest is like a Jace spammer. When Jace was released, he played it a ton out of the jungle. So no surprises that when it is available, it's being picked up by NASR. I wonder whether the Galio is going to get picked up here or whether Queso will all in elsewhere. That's an Olaf picked up. Again, another big pick that was available coming out of the draft.
I think the crazy thing is as well, I mean, at the start of the day, we actually saw Reckoner playing Jace in the mid lane. So it's actually interesting that they prioritize Jace over Olaf, because we've seen what Andre can do on Olaf and how powerful he can be. And they're going to actually pick up Galio themselves as well. So not giving that away to Senna. But I think the Senna still has a few options as well in the dual lane, like I mentioned, with the NASRs and also the Gragas as well, which is also available, which has been a very, very high priority. But yeah, back to the Jace. They prioritizing Jace instead of Olaf. And I feel like Team Queso have such a great comp right now. Acolyte in the Baron lane, been really, really strong on Camille in the past. Andreas, we know what he can do on Olaf, and also the Galio can be flexed in the mid lane. Veos has played it before in the past, not that recently, but mainly on Mephinor. And this is the first Darius that I think we've seen of the entire finals.
It is, and it's into Acolyte, who knows this matchup like the back of his hand. He's a well-known Darius player, but NASR had to take their top lane here, otherwise it gets pinched so heavily that you won't have any playable matchups into Camille. Obviously, we've seen Darius get a few nerfs, and now we turn our attention back down to the bottom lane for a while as Varus banned out on the side of NASR, Gragas banned out from Team Queso, but this Senna unlocks bottom lane picks that you cannot normally run, and that makes me now wonder where NASR are going to go with this. They're trying to take away some of Joey's comfort champions, but that Corki is still available, so I think that's where Queso are going to go.
Yeah, I think you brought a great point about Corki, and I think he actually performed really, really well on the Corki. Sometimes I think some of the packages were a little bit over aggressive at times. Sometimes he did get a little bit caught out, but I think it's definitely one of his comfort champions. It'd be interesting to see here if they're going to actually pick the duo lane pick, or maybe potentially pick maybe the jungler. As you said, Sweat could play the Jace. It could also go to Reckoner as well in the mid lane. So I think this pick is going to decide a lot, whether it's going to be that dual lane combo with the Senna, whether it's going to be in the jungle as well. And like you said, the other bans as well, Gragas, I'm very surprised wasn't picked at all. And it's a
Jarvan jungle, Jace mid. They're leaving a little bit of flex. I don't think it's going to be anything like Jarvan support or Jace down in the bottom lane. I think it's going to be that last pick on bottom lane where now you're trying to see like how much poke do they have, how much range do they have in bottom lane, can you afford to pick something that needs time, do you have to pick something more aggressive with the Senna. I don't mind it utilizing red side till the last pick. We kind of feel like Queso are going to go Corki, but it's not. It's actually a Ziggs, which we haven't seen out of Joey in quite some time.
No, I think Ziggs in general we haven't really seen for a long time, to be fair. I think it's not been as high priority. There was an interesting moment, and then it's singed again for Veos in the mid lane. I mean, honestly, like I said, I think he actually performed pretty well in game number 2 and even game number 3 as well. During them really, really close team fights, the poison that Singe can offer is just really, really nice. But the thing is, though, is that I feel like Jarvan is such a great pick against this comp. You shut down the Olaf. The Olaf has no mobility. If the Singe jumps in as well,
can't get him out.
You can't get out of it. Yeah, he can't get out because the Jarvan is just going to lock them down. So I feel like it's a bit of an interesting one. Is that Ari dual? I feel like I remember seeing Ari dual lane in a region before that. I remember like I was looking at other regions to see what they picked. It might have also been China, maybe Korea as well. I think I've seen Ari dual lane before, but with a Senna as well.
Whatever NASR picked, it needed to bring a little bit of magic damage because they had the Jarvan, they had Darius, Jace, Senna from there. So something needed to have magic damage somewhere in their composition. But I think you're kind of right. Like Singed, other than stopping Jarvan jumping in, like he can't flag and drag over the Mega Adhesive. That's basically one interaction, but then after that, Cataclysm on top of Olaf and Singed is going to just put a cage around them.
Yeah, definitely.
And if the damage can come up in response, like if NASR can keep damage output going and destroy the tanks in the Cataclysm, then surely at that point you'd think that Jarvan is going to outplay. But I think that's always risky because you're stuck in there with a Singed and an Olaf, and you got to survive through all of that damage too.
I mean, it'd be interesting to see actually where these picks go, because it could potentially be like maybe Ari mid lane, it could be Jace in the jungle, and then Jarvan could be down in the dual lane as well. I think there is a little bit of flexibility. I think it is, like we said, it's probably going to be Jarvan jungle, Jace mid, Darius top with the Ari and the Senna in the dual lane, which I think is really, really interesting. There's a little bit of mobility on the side of Team Queso. You know, Camille can jump out of the way. Ziggs can try and escape as well. And even if Jarvan does use a Cataclysm, you do also have that Galio ultimate as well as a protection. But I think the main focus is just making sure that Jarvan can just stop Andre. We've seen it as a counter pick before as well. Really, really good. If Olaf has his flash down, he can't really do anything at all. You're just going to catch him up. But this is the all-important series, Stress. This is going to be the first game of the best of 3, and
it's the unexpected Jarvan bot lane. So
it was my second prediction.
It was the second. I didn't think it was going to be, but one thing that is for certain is Ziggs is the kind of champion that is punished when he doesn't have his flash available by picks like Jarvan, who can easily and reliably get on top of him. So that's one area that we may see Team Queso struggle with as this game goes further. But I got to look at Acolyte. Camille, first pick of the day of Camille being let through the draft. And Andre's Olaf, these are scary picks for Queso to be picking up.
These are picks that we know that Team Queso can play as well, because they've been playing it constantly throughout the whole WREC. And I think actually Ari is a pretty good matchup against Singed, because Singed, as I mentioned a little bit before with Singed, you could just play really, really safe. You can clear the wave in the mid lane, but Ari can also clear the mid wave as well very, very easily. You can see Reckon's going in a little bit, but Veos is completely fine. Just flips them away and he's all good.
Yeah, he had Swest around as well, so they were looking at whether there was an opportunity on there. I think one of the things I'm starting to see from Singed is, and this is something we wanted to talk about a little bit, is he's safe in the middle lane, but his push power is not particularly quick. He's not very fast at getting the roam. Rekna forced to flash out over the wall. Joey's going to flash after him and try and get the damage. First blood does go to Queso, and a second one on top of it for good measure. Joey is having another great start. It's 3 over to Queso with 1 exchange as Swest gets shut down before he's ever able to get into the fight. 4 kills to 1. Queso with a perfect start for
I honestly thought Team Queso kind of went a little bit too over-aggressive there. They would use like 3 flashes to try and kill one person. They use the exhaust as well, but it worked out for them. Like you said, 4-for-1 trade in the early game. That's absolutely huge for this dual lane as well. Like you said, Ziggs can struggle against Jarvan, you know, especially with that flash down as well, but because he's able to get a few advantages, but Andre straight in the mid lane.
The Singe. I'm not even going to cast it, because one interaction I didn't even think about is, of course, I mean, Regner doesn't have his ultimate up, but that Mega Adhesive screws Ari's day.
Yeah, so you see in the replay as well, you know, Mephanor and Andre flashed in before Ari flashed over the wall. Joey flashed in, used the exhaust as well, but they're already at a disadvantage, because when you're low on health, especially with the NASR members as well, it allows Team Queso to regroup as well. It allows Team Queso to group up, and it's such a huge play for them, like you said, in that mid lane fight as well.
Oh, we're back into another fight. Like, Regner's still only level 4, doesn't have the Spirit Rush available. Veos is taking damage on the back end of it. Oh, that wasn't an accelerated Shock Blast, or Swest would have picked up the kill onto Andre. Queso kind of want to slow this down from that mid lane engage. They got away with it without losing anybody else.
Rekner is really struggling in this mid lane. I think Veos is close to being a whole level ahead already against Rekner, which I think Rekner in the early game on this Ori can use that, well, try to use the wave clear in the early game to try and rotate around the map, but he just got completely caught out by Methanor in the river, and it's kind of backfired a little bit as well.
Yeah.
And now Team Queso on the front foot. They already nearly have a 2,000 goal lead at 3 minutes in the game. Not really too much, to be fair, but a goal lead is still a gold lead. They got 5 kills as well. And we're going to be getting their first objective soon. It's going to be Cloud Dragon as well. I think the movement speed that you can get on Team Queso's side. Singed, Olaf, Galio, Camille as well.
Like, everybody benefits. It's only Ziggs that doesn't really care about it, because he just wants to stand still, right? But, I mean, I don't know how I feel about this, Jarvan. Because Babani's just stuck down in the bottom lane for a while. And I know, obviously, when you're playing Senna as a bot lane carry, you're kind of taking a little bit more of the supportive responsibility, but I think Babane's engage is so key for the way that NASR have to play this, that if he's stuck bot lane just absorbing waves from Singed, it reduces what NASR can do on the map.
But I think to kind of counteract that as well, I think the reason why they're putting Senna and Ori in the mid lane is to try and push out the mid wave as quick as possible. I think that's what kind of the thought process, I think, in NASR. I totally agree that, you know, if you put Jarvan in the mid lane, it allows him to roam around the map to try and make plays as well. But I think if you're against the Ziggs in the mid lane, you need someone for that pushing power.
Oh, and you need to be able to get Ziggs flash, and that's exactly what NASR get from that exchange. Will they lose much on the back end of it, though, as Swest is going to get taunted up? Babane is here. They forced 1 flash out. Oh, Singe sidesteps, but it's not enough. enough to get free. And into the fight comes Andre. Flash forward with the Ragnarok. And Ragnar Rampage through this fight. As in goes Acolyte. Gets the ultimatum in place. It's a double kill for Andre. And this is business as usual for Team Queso. And Andre, triple kill off the fight. 9 kills total.
They balance the aggro and they balance going in and out of that team fight so well. As Acolyte going in, they jump back out. Then Mephanor jumped in just afterwards as well. They just balanced the damage so well. They all survived on 1 HP, but that was the main thing, that they all survived and they got the kills. We can take a look at the replay. It was originally Joey that got caught, but the Mega Infernal Bomb. Ziggs still does so much damage. Veils with the Protobell, trying to get the flip onto Swest as well on top of the taunt. The Cataclysm couldn't do much because Singed had the flash. That was the most important thing. And then it was just the re-engage from Team Queso. You can see Andreas jumping in as well, flashing in. Acolyte then jumps in, but you can see he flashes back out, baits Babunia to go back in. Mephanor then flashes back out as well, and they just juggle it so well, and they just survive the whole team fight. They get a few kills under their belt as well. They also got the Rift Herald, which actually got that mid lane tower as well, which just opens up the map so much for Team Queso.
5-0-4 for Andre on this game, and this is what we were talking about, is you cannot scrap against Andre as a jungler. Like, WRECs are too secure in the way that they played, whereas NASR are a lot more loose. Here comes the engage. Triple taunt lands from Methanoid, and into the fight comes the rest of Queso. Can they feed more over to Andre? He drops low, nearly drops instantly in that fight, and NASR actually trade 1-for-1, get the shutdown gold off Andre. That's kind of what they need with a Dragon up. Joey doesn't have his flash available from that last exchange. Methanoid going to try and throw himself into harm's way, picks up a kill and denies the engage from Cool FX. But wow, that is close for Queso. They lose Andre and lose the shutdown gold. Yeah,
they're going to give over the shutdown gold to NASR. They're not going to be able to do too much with that, though, I don't think. I think the Team Queso still take that as an advantage for themselves. Joey as well, 206 on this Ziggs as well. It's been caught out a few times, but he still had his flash available. The Mega Infernal Bombs are doing so much as well, but NASR, I feel like they just can't really do anything about this Olaf now, and you can see why WRECs banned the Olaf as well in that previous series. When you give over Andreas Olaf, he's just on a whole nother level, even without the Uni, without the Lulu, and there he goes again. He's just going to kill him.
Yeah, level advantage, so forces out the barrier. I mean, but at the same time, even without killing him, he opens up the tower, right? That's the key play that they're going for. That's exactly what Queso want from that situation. A little bit risky of Methanoid here. He knows he can tank up a little damage, but NASR should be able to take this dragon. No smite available. Are they actually not going to do it? Wow, they're going to get delayed off the dragon. That's huge because it's going to buy time. I mean, Queso don't know that it reset. Queso don't have the full vision, but now they do. And now Joey says, okay, let's go aggressive. Let's dance around the dragon because it's all about the objective control. Methanoid is going to body block. Swest is going to be able to take dragon down on the back end. Has he bought enough time as Methanoid can't deter the dragon steal, but Andre doesn't care about the objectives. Andre wants the kills on the backside of this, and Queso have got NASR trapped. It's just a matter of time before they do it. It's just how clean is it going to be from Queso. The shield comes out. Not enough as a rampage for Joey. The execute comes down onto Swest, but it's a real execution in the side of Team Queso, taking 15 kills on the game. They're going to take another tower, 3 towers to 0. This game is all going Queso's way.
Over 10,000 gold lead now for Team Queso, and Joey actually using a satchel charge to go in. I think that's the first time I've seen it, as Andre gets caught out again. So, I mean, NASR are finding these little mistakes from Team Queso, but it's not really adding up to much at the moment. I think that's the problem, is that they're just getting absolutely destroyed in these team fights. Team Queso are just playing around the team fight so well. The lockdown from Acolyte, then Mephanor as well with these ultimates have been really good during the team fights, and then Joey on top of that as well. Like I said, I think it's the first time I've ever seen an aggressive satchel charge forward. That just shows his confidence. Oh, it might be the last.
It might be the last time you see it. I looked away from the screen and Sneaky's dead. So that is a thing that happened in this game, and Veos is trying to run away. Has himself the Rylai's, but not a lot of health to work with anymore. NASR are going to pick up 1 from that top lane exchange. It's getting a bit scrappy, and that still does favor Queso, but this is one of the reasons why we were talking about how Queso can play against teams that are not quite at the level of WRECs and Gamelord. Is Queso kind of like coin flipping at times? They don't mind it so much. That's kind of where they thrive, giving isolated kills over to Andre and buying space for the rest of the team. So they're going to be able to at least pressure the Rift Herald. It will reset, though, from here. Queso don't want to rush it.
Yeah, they don't take any risks as Joey Ignite goes down as well. I think Rekna.
Oh! West with the snipe.
Downtown.
Punished from long range as Joey. Wish he had his satchel charge away that time. We could have flashed it, but didn't think he was going to take that much damage. And now NASR have an opportunity in mid lane if they can get it, but minion wave is going to die pretty quickly here. You know, NASR just don't feel confident in capitalizing on the advantages they get. That's what I'm feeling in this game. They've got a few kills here and there, but there's no second follow-up to it. There's no way of actually taking the objective.
Yeah, I think that's just like them playing a little bit. They're trying to play aggressive at times, but then, like you said, when they get their advantages, which they did get against Ricks as well. You know, Ricks, they got them small advantages, but then it was just what you do after them advantages, which is the most important thing. You need to make sure that if you get a pick on the side lane, if you get a pick on the mid lane, Senna only has 34 stacks, which is not a lot at 11 minutes into the game. Normally, you'd have about... I mean, at least above 40 by now. I could be wrong in terms of numbers, but I think at least 40 now, because every time Senna gets like 20 stacks, she gets like bonuses and everything as well. But only 34 stacks. It's going for a more aggressive Senna build as well. Normally we see like Divine Sunderer and Black Cleaver on Senna, just so she can be a little bit more tanky. Like you said, more of that supportive role. And Sneaky might get caught out.
Yeah, we talked about Sneaky overextending from time to time, and he was up past his tower line well in advance. Top tower is where the engage is going in favor, perhaps, of NASR. Charm lands, that should be enough to deal with Acolyte. He will get taken out as Cool Effects picks it up, but that's a Rift Herald charge down into the bottom lane, as in the middle lane, Methanaut has been dealing with NASR, but it's Joey that has actually died from this very scrappy game as Swest picks up a double kill in mid, as Veus is now trying to distract and, you know, pull NASR around this mid lane. Inhibitor has gone down because, of course, Andre has been able to take it out. Now we'll be able to run away. Ultimate not quite available, but when it's up, he should be able to escape this. Charm lands. Ragnarok popped, and he chooses to go back in. I think Andre... I feel like you could have read that one. Maybe it was at like half a second on the cooldown of that ult coming back up. But Queso kind of losing their heads a little bit.
It's not a clean game from TK. Okay, so that's for sure. It's definitely not a team game. They're clean game. They've definitely been caught. We missed how Joey got caught in the mid lane as well, because I think Swest got a double kill in that mid lane in the end. But Acolyte got caught in the top lane. Methanaut has been caught a few times as well. Veos as well. Andreas died a few times. I don't think that's really him getting caught. I think that's more to do with the team fights, except for that situation that just happened now. But yeah, like I said, not the cleanest game by Team K, so they still have the gold lead though.
But NASR,
and again.
Okay, so I'm glad they're going for Singed. Turn for Dragon right now.
Yeah,
because Andre's only just
something.
respawned. They could have taken it before the Singed pick if they wanted to, but you've bought time for Andre to get back. That's a huge ultimate from Joey, and here comes a big taunt on top of it as well. But all of this is just buying time for Andre to get to the fight. Blast Cone over the wall. Flash in as well, and Andre's here. It's your nightmare at this point, because Andre can just eat through the health bars. Charm lands. He needs to land a little bit more damage in order to heal up. Will end up dropping, and NASR have been able to at least steady the ship around this engage. And again, Queso is split across the map. Andre does contest the fight, but they will lose a tower in the top side. Dragon going over to NASR.
They play aggressive in the 4 versus 5. They lose out on the team fight as well. Again, it's Team Queso not playing clean. Maybe they just a bit of miscommunication because Acolyte was still pushing in the barrel lane. Maybe they were trying to use it as a distraction as well to try and get that inhibit the tower. The problem is that Camille doesn't have Hullbreaker yet, so he doesn't have the extra advantages. But looking back at this fight, Methanaut does get charmed, so has to wait a little bit on the taunt. Andreas tries to do something 1 versus 4 basically. Joey's in the back line trying to do something. Does actually get exhausted, I feel like, here as well, which definitely reduces his damage, reduces movement speed. Swest is able to jump back in as well. And as you can see from this fight, it's not clean by Team Queso. Like these little oversteps as well, which NASR have done a little bit as well, and it's given NASR these little small opportunities as well, which means that they're able to take 2 dragons as well. Team Queso have no dragons at all. NASR still doesn't even have a single tower in this entire game. I mean, they're still down in gold as well, but it's definitely been reduced from that 10k gold lead that we had a few minutes ago.
It has, and it certainly doesn't feel as straightforward as Queso taking full control of the game, especially with the inhib pushing down through the bottom lane. I mean, there's a lot of gold going over to NASR through that lane. Queso need to use that to their advantage, right? Here's a catch onto Babane. That was a lot used. Ragnarok and the Mega Inferno Bomb. So big cooldowns now. They will come back up, but with Baron up, and Acolyte maybe getting caught in the middle lane, Swest is quite strong from this. Like, he has a lot of damage on this Jace. He's pretty quickly got himself 6 kills in this game, and Queso just need to kind of go through the motions a little bit more than they have done. Like, slow it down just a touch and utilize the map state that you actually have. Like, 6 towers to 0 and inhibitor being down means you have full map control. Use it. Set up vision, get a few picks, and actually punish NASR for being out of position.
And I think that's the one thing is vision. I think the vision game for Team Queso, they're overextending a little bit. They're trying to play these like 1-3-1 scenarios. They're trying to split push a little bit, but when they are split pushing, they do overextend a little bit, and then they do get caught out as well. But interestingly enough, you know, like you said, Jace, you know, nearly 12,000 gold. Actually, nearly has more gold than everyone on the side of Team Queso, except for really Andreas, which means that, you know, Swest can do well. And we, you know, talking about the jungle matchup a little bit as well, you know, Swest between Swest and Andreas, and I feel like NASR really have that top side of the map, which, as we mentioned, can play a little bit too aggressive. But also, I feel like that's their main strong point as well. Cool Effects has only recently come into the team, so maybe doesn't really feel that comfortable as a previous AD carry, dual lane carry that they had. But Jace, really strong right now on Swest. Rekner as well, hasn't done too much, but this is where it could all go wrong for NASR.
Yeah, Queso trying to use the vision control. Cool Effects already blasted out of this fight for now. Galio's going to come through for a heroic entrance and take out a second of this fight. Now the ultimatum's going to hold Rekner in place and really seal his fate. This was what Queso needed to do. They needed to get the pick and then work it through the jungle, utilize the vision control, and now even push it through the bottom lane. 30-second death timers on everybody on NASR with super minions already in the lane. I mean, Queso should be able to really put the pressure on him, probably even take the game here through bot.
They could take the game. 20, 30-second death timers as well for NASR. It's only Babunya left alive, but that was really clever by Team Queso. They used the Baron vision that NASR didn't have to their advantage. They sat in the bush, they waited, and with their lockdown, with their crowd control, Cool Effects just died, and that's it. That's game number 1.
Yep, that's Queso using the advantage they built from the early game, steadying the ship, not even needing Baron or Elder because of the damage they'd done. I think for NASR, you'll look at that and say, okay, well, we kind of scrapped back into it. But for Queso, from the first set of fights, that was a game they should have closed out. And they did, but it wasn't quite as clean as you would like to see.
You would have thought that maybe Team Queso would have actually liked to close it out a lot sooner as well, and like you said, make it a lot cleaner as well, because there were situations where they got caught out. There were situations where they allowed NASR to get back into the game as well, and at points NASR were winning team fights as well. You know, they were winning these 4 versus 5 situations because Team Queso were trying to split push instead, which again is not the cleanest. Maybe it's a little bit of the previous series as well, still, you know, like kind of on the back of their minds as well, so maybe they're not fully comfortable. But I think winning this first game was really important to them. Gives them the confidence now for the rest of the series.
Important for Queso to take game 1 of this. Now NASR unfortunately find themselves 1 game away potentially from being out of the WREC finals. It's a 1-0 game for Team Queso. If they win the next one, they're going through to day 3. We'll be back in just a few minutes with potentially our last game of the day.
Jackson Neal, the Caribbean. Due to everything I did, right now, the can feels real. Yeah, for all the things I ever done, I'm falling down. Can feel this. This is gonna be legendary. I keep my style, I miss the burning. I show my teeth, beat the ground. I lower my head to hear a sound. Rising the temperature, feeling my blood. I'm feeling so powerful, fuck your ghost sake.
Welcome everyone, we're back here in the WREC finals after Team Queso winning the first game versus NASR Esports, and I have to say, Hells, that felt like a pretty one-sided game.
It was pretty one-sided. I would say in the early game very one-sided, but in the mid game I felt there were some windows of opportunity to come back from NASR, so you know, half one-sided and then half a chance to come back, in my opinion.
Yeah, there was a chance to come up for NASR Esports common line because, yeah, Team Queso got a huge early game advantage.
Yeah.
They had massive early advantage. I think it was 8K of gold or something like that, but somehow they fell stuck in the mid game.
Yeah, I think that's an issue with Team Queso usually that you see. I think that when it comes to getting stuck, they don't really know how to solve it properly, and then they get into this loop, which many times has led them to losing the game. So I think what they should try to do in this game is, like, if there are no opportunities, as Hells was saying, open it yourself, try to find an opportunity yourself, try to push harder so that you actually can close the game properly instead of giving the other team a little bit of something in space to come back.
And I feel like a player like Swest, for example, he really showed what he's made of in this game. We saw him on the Jace. He got those catches, right? Like he got the shutdown. Kill on Joey right there. Like, if NASR wins, I was talking about the Baron laner first, sneaky, but I feel Swest is another power that they have.
Yeah, definitely. I can be more agree with you because, I mean, he was 665 we're watching right now, the KDA, but he was dealing huge damage through. NASR, in fact, was on the verge of taking back the game.
They really were. At some point, Ecolai was split pushing. They had a huge fight about the Ocean Dragon. And Swift was able to do a lot of damage, get out of the fight, reaching a little bit up, and when he found the opportunity to strike, he killed Andreset, and the fight was like in their favor suddenly. You know, it had a big dip, but still, yeah, I mean, we're looking at the goal score right now. I mean, it never really felt like Team Queso lost control.
Yes.
Even though the kill score was like different, I think 20 to 14 at some point, and you felt like, I mean, NASR is kind of winning the fights. The overall map play, Team Queso had control completely. And I feel like if NASR is going to go out after this series and they're going to go home losing 2-0, I still think they can be proud, even though they're the champions of Turkey. They're going to go home probably with a 2-0. I think they show what they're made of. They had shines of like showing a little bit here and there that they're actually a really strong team. They just had a group with WREC and Team Queso, who are titans of Europe. So I think this team will be one of the biggest what-ifs of this tournament.
But Ryu, you're talking about going home already. You know, you're calling it too early. You're calling it a little too early. It's 1-0. They can still come back, man.
You guys know me. I love NASR. Those guys are my boys. I mean, I think they're great players. They're great persons, and they show, as I said so many times, they show glimpses of hope. But they need to show more to beat someone like WREC or TQ. Earlier they showed they couldn't beat WREC. Today, they showed so far they probably can't beat TQ either. I mean, WREC, yeah.
I want to talk about the draft because we get to see for the first time so many new champions that were on the way that maybe the teams were reluctant to pick. But we had, for example, the first Darius today after the nerfs.
First Darius, first Ari, first Camille, first everything. But first Darius indeed. And even though Darius got nerfed, in the hands of these Baron laners, he's still a good pick. And when you go for the Black Cleaver especially, you don't necessarily go for the attack speed. It's more about shredding the armor with the bleed. But enough talking here. Let's take a look at the play of the game.
Like at the play of the game for this game, guys, we got a lot of team fight, in fact.
Yeah, well, I wonder what it's going to be. There's so many different types of plays that it could be. So there it is. And which one is it?
Yeah, it's the early game fight. I mean, WREC, that's a fantastic flash over the wall where he really gets the fight started. I think at the point where Aria flashes over the wall, we're seeing like, okay, maybe TQ's just gonna back off, say, okay, fair enough, we got the flash. Joey says, no, I'm gonna go in there, we gotta get some kills, and well, they did. They got 4-1. That was a fantastic snowballing fight for Team Queso.
Yeah, definitely. And as I saying, I want to discuss a little bit of the draw because Kamalain was really excited about that, Camille, about that, all of that. I mean, Rixie was so careful about banning that all of away, and there was a reason behind it.
I mean, both Camille and Olaf have been banned consistently throughout today, and I think because Camille is in such a good spot. Fear has been nerfed. Camille seems to be the immediate champion that you will go to if you are looking for any split pusher. And when you combine it with a no-life, he's so powerful right now. I mean, getting burnt again and again, and in the hands of Andres said, it just gives you so much carry potential that I felt like with Acolyte being able to carry and Andres being able to carry even more, they had a really good top jungle duo.
And I also think about the Galio pick, I think Camille is really, really strong, and especially with Galio. Camille can go in, use that Hextech ultimatum onto a target. Galio can then jump onto it, and like that combo is just insane. And I think Team Queso used it well.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, yes. I mean, what can we expect? Health for the next game. It's going to be another super one-sided game. NASR can come back. I really feel like I maybe was expecting Team Queso to be quite low on mood, but definitely not after the series versus WREC.
Yeah, I think I don't know what to expect. I feel NASR could potentially come back, but as we're talking, we're going to be heading into the Coca-Cola pop-off, so we're going to be getting another nice play on the screen.
Who popped off the most in this game?
Oh, that's a good question. I feel like, as Ryu said, it's WREC, and I want to give it to Ryu this one.
I mean, WREC during this game actually had so many insane bombs, but this particular fight, he actually got sniped out by Swiss, the player that was the key of NASR for this entire game. But I think maybe the pop-off could also be probably Methanord. We talked about him behind the scenes. Methanord was like every single taunt he made, it meant kills for Team Queso. He just knew the exact moment when to go in. He went in and he got the right taunts. The thing about Galio that is so interesting as well, he has no way out. When Galio goes in, he is in. He has no way to get out. He has to finish the taunt, he has to use his Q, and he has to start using his auto attack, which is also enhanced. So yeah, Methanol really knew the limits of the champion, and I think he used his knockups and snares extremely well.
Okay, so yeah, Methanol was super huge on this Galio pick. That may be expecting him again for the next game. Definitely quite an expert of this champion.
Yeah, definitely expert of the champion indeed. As Ryu said, you know, when you go in, you cannot go back out. He did use the stone plate beautifully. He taunted like 3 or 4 people right after each other. So he made it worth when he went in. So enough about the analyst desk. We're gonna be tossing it to the casters.
We're gonna toss it to the casters then.
Bye bye.
Are you guys there?
We're here. We're here. We're ready. We're totally ready. We're going to get into game very, very shortly. It's what? Game... I'm going to try and do it. We had a 2-0, a 2-0, a 2-1. So it's game number 9 of the day? Yeah, I've lost my brain. I lost my brain on the random outplay like 4 games ago. So like I'm somehow coasting through these last couple of games. But I mean, it is a really important series, and I don't want to make light of it because we're in a situation where Queso win this next game, Queso advance to the playoffs. Queso lose this game, NASR still have an opportunity to 2-1 this series and make their way through. I think looking at game 1, Queso had such a strong early game and a strong last few minutes of the game that I think Queso understandably have the advantage coming into here. But I mean, NASR, they've made the game scrappy. They've made them competitive in that regard. And I think that's probably the key to how they win this game if they're going to come back in the series.
I think the early game disadvantage kind of didn't really help them too much. They got so behind in that early game. I think it was, like I mentioned during the cast, I think it was like a 10,000 gold deficit. And when you're that far behind in a game like Wild Rift, where the game's only lost between 15 and 20 minutes, it's so hard to try and get that gold lead back. You don't have a lot of time, because by the time you get back into that gold lead, everything could be gone for you completely.
just taking a moment just to settle himself. As Queso are getting ready for our second game in this series. Andre, of course, so much has been on his shoulders. I mean, there is a pressure to that, right? Like, there's a pressure to being like the guy that has to carry, and not out of necessity. Like, Queso don't need Andre to carry, but they've put that responsibility on him very frequently, and we've talked about it a lot during the day. This is the kind of matchup where that works. You know, I think pound for pound, Queso are the stronger team.
Yeah, I think coming into this, Queso are definitely the favorites, and as you mentioned before, once Queso are the favorites and when Queso are the favorites and they're facing, you know, not up against Rix or Game Lord, they can definitely use that.
Yeah.
But I think that was also kind of NASR as well as we get closer to picks and bans, kind of going back to the first pick and bans.
Yeah.
The bans from NASR were very interesting. They banned 3 support champions, which I didn't really like, which left so much open for Team Queso. Then they prioritized the Senna, which didn't really do too much. I think the Jace was okay. I think that they did all, you know, Swiss did all right in the jungle, to be fair. Did come back quite a bit. Senna, not so much, but then you just give over Olaf and Galio. If you give them 3 champions in the first rotation of the draft over to Team Queso, Acolyte on Camille, we know what he can do. Andreas on Olaf, and then Mephanor on Galio. These are all comfort picks.
Yeah, and
Queso.
Not only comfort picks, there were a lot of Queso picks that were like top tier picks, and I don't want to sound disrespectful about NASR's draft, but like I don't feel like they got any tier 1 picks from what they picked. Jace is the closest to it, where Jace has high priority, but he's not like head and shoulders above any other pick, whereas like Camille, I'm like the best Baron laner.
Yeah.
Olaf, one of the absolute top junglers right now, especially with the carry jungle playstyle coming from it. Like Galio, one of the best supports that we see, and like these are picks that generally don't get through a lot of draft phases coming out of the ban phase. So as we get to picks and bans for our second game of this series, I want to see where NASR swap things up. They will have the side selection for this game, whether they go to red side. I think you should. I think red side is so much stronger. We've been speaking to a lot of coaches. I know the analysts, you guys also kind of agree from what I'm aware of, that like red side right now has so much strength that you'd be silly not to pick it.
Were Team Queso on blue side last game?
Yes, they were. Queso were on blue side.
Is that the first game on blue side?
I'm going to flick back through... yeah, red side won every single game up until the last game.
Wow.
Because Rix in game 3 were on red side
as well. Wow, that's crazy. I mean, we spoke a little bit about how red side being so much stronger, and NASR has picked the red side for this selection as well. Seems like the bans are very, very similar so far. Nothing too crazy different.
How many support bans are we going to have? So everybody's banned Karma first. So I'm going to have this 1% hope that NASR are going to leave it open. I don't think it's going to happen. I think that's more of a risk than anyone can afford to do. Karma should come out in the ban phase in these next couple of bans. If you're going to ban supports, you have to ban Karma.
There you go. There's the ban as well. Yeah. I think the only thing that you could try and do if you're on the side of NASR is potentially leave that Karma open, and even though you give them the Karma, you can then just get 2 power picks, maybe like the Camille and Olaf. But it seems like they're just going the same direction as what they did in game number 1. The exact same direction. It's just going to be Camille first pick again.
I mean, it could also be the Olaf. I think maybe NASR might change things up and go Senna Galio if they're going to maintain that priority, or try and take the Olaf away. Camille makes sense. I mean, she's such a strong pick right now. She's been hit by the nerf bat multiple times and still finds herself at the absolute top tier of Baron laners. A lot of it is to do with locking down a single target with that ultimate. Regardless of the duration, it still does. Oh, that's a Garen first pick, which, I mean, you have to pick something into the Camille, but you're giving away power picks at this point. You're giving away, like, Olaf if you want to take it out of the jungle, or a top-tier bot lane, a top-tier support. There's the Jace that we've come to expect, so that means Queso, we're going to answer with the Olaf. This is Queso. They're going to play it if it's available for Andre.
Honestly, Team Queso just need to do the same thing as what they did in game number 1. Olaf they're going to prioritize the Singed instead, which is quite interesting. They did pick it in the last game, but it was the last pick for Team Queso in the previous game, so not prioritizing Olaf that much this time.
Oh, okay,
but
Galio.
It's still going to be the Galio as well, so it's just a swap up there. It's going to be the Singed instead of the Olaf, so maybe... I mean, Singed has definitely been really, really popular throughout the entire day.
Stuart, I feel like this is the first time in any of the games that I can remember from Queso where he's not... Like, Andre hasn't been banned, and Queso haven't drafted fully around Andre from that jungle role. Like, this is wildly different to their normal priority, and that's why it's a big deal for me. Is like, we've seen games where Andre's had 7 bans towards him through a pick and ban phase. So yeah, a really different play style. We'll see how this actually turns out for the rest of the draft. Morgana is the last pick for NASR from our first rotation. Now we go into the second ban phase as Ziggs off the board. No Ziggs for Joey.
Yeah, no Ziggs for Joey this time. I think he actually did a pretty good performance, and I think he's played it quite comfortably as well. We were saying, you know, a little bit over-aggressive at
Yeah,
times.
I thought he was hinting at level 3. I'm going to be totally honest with you. He flashed over the wall, and I was like, Joey's tilted from that REC series. And then they get like a triple kill, and Joey survives. I'm like, all right, what do I know?
He knows what he's doing.
This is what happens when you get boosted to diamond, and not that guy on stage who is actually a professional player.
That's why he's sitting over there on the couches, and we're sitting here on the car.
I know, right? I say boosted, more just like inflated. Those of you playing matchmaking with me, you probably know I'm not a challenger bot laner at that point. But speaking of challenger bot laners, Methodor has now banned out 2 supports away from Bubani. That Thresh has gone, that Braum has gone. We are digging deep in support pools now.
I'm trying to think what's left open. That's
You got
what,
like
5?
Alistair, Leona, Janna, Gragas is up and hasn't been prioritized. There's the Olaf for NASR, so taking that away from the priority from Team Queso. But I mean, they've got so many, like Kha'Zix, Lee Sin. At this point, we've seen even Xin Shao, Rengar from Andre, like a ton of picks, so I'm not worried.
I think Xin Zhao could actually be a pretty good pick here. You know, if Jace is trying to jump in, the Garen as well, even Olaf, you can try and knock him away if he doesn't have his ultimate available. Obviously, Xin Zhao with the Divine Sunder and Black Cleaver as well has also been very, very strong. So leaving potentially their support for their last pick. Joey's going to pick up that Corki again. I think he did really well in game number 2 against Rix, and also game number 3 as well. And I think it's kind of a comfort AD carry for him. Unfortunately, if this is the last game, we won't be able to see Joey on the hyper carries just yet in the tournament. I would like to see Joey on the hyper carries, you know, like Vayne, Jinx.
Yeah, he ain't
like
getting
that.
to play that. There's the Kha'Zix who come to expect that from Andre. Yeah, Joey's not going to get to play those hyper carries. Not when you're playing on a team with Andre as a primary carry, and then Acolyte and Veos as secondary carries. Joey's on like mage duty for the rest of eternity. Set support picked up. I'm going to guess it's support, as we're going to have an Olaf in the game. That would put Morgana as the carry,
Olaf,
right?
yeah.
So Morgana set in the bottom lane, Jace in the mid lane, Olaf out of the jungle with Garen in the top lane. For some reason, I did it backwards.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the map upside down. As Team Queso, this is a lot more, I say standard. Those of you just tuning in are going to wonder why the hell there's a Singed in this game. For those of you that haven't seen the rest of the games, Singed mid, pretty strong right now. Hard to move out of lane. A lot of crowd control and frustration around how it plays.
Definitely. I think against potentially a Jace, maybe potentially a Garen in the mid lane as well, kind of can be a little bit flexed around. I think that Singed again is just going to be really, really safe, not really going to do too much, going to try and get the 2 items, the Rylai's and the Andres, and then after that you can just run over the team fight as well, especially against 4 melee champions as well, and then you also have the Morgana, which is not really going to do too much. The binding might be a little bit annoying for Singed, but then Singed is probably going to build a little bit of tenacity as well because of that Morgana, so he's not going to get rooted as much.
Yeah.
And then he's just going to be able to run around against them 4 melee champions.
There's a few key ults that Singed is gonna kind of like put up a big stop button to. Morgana typically needs to like flash or use Proto Belt or something to close distance and make sure that those leashes shackle, and you can't do that over Mega Adhesive. And I'm pretty sure Set can't ult on it either. He can't take a target from off Mega Adhesive away into the team. I'm pretty sure that's the interaction, so we'll keep an eye out for it. But I might be wrong. 9 games in. Who knows? I'm neither a Set player nor a Singed player, so that's one of them interactions we'll have to watch out. But I feel like it might ruin a few days. We'll see whether Team Queso's day stays in a positive after a first game win in this series, or whether NASR can fire back. They need to win 2 games now back-to-back in order to stay in the WREC finals.
Yep, and I think all eyes are really going to be on this early game because Team Queso were able to get that early game advantage in the previous game, which allowed them to kind of excel their goal lead a little bit with a few little mistakes here and there, which is maybe from the previous game. Again, the last game wasn't that cleaner, but I'm expecting Team Queso to come into this, kind of expecting a much cleaner game, you know. But again, they have so many comfort picks. Acolyte again gets the Camille up in the Baron lane. Andreas, we've seen loads of times on the Kha'Zix as well. Singed mid seems like a comfort pick for Veos now. I would like to see see him on the champions like Akali, you know, these assassins that we know he can carry on, but they've been actually banning Akali out themselves, maybe a little bit worried about... Yeah, maybe worried a little bit about NASR, maybe Reckoner or even Sneaky as well. I think Sneaky, if I remember correctly, has been playing Akali quite a lot as well, so maybe just taking her off the borders. There's a little bit of exchange, but I don't think it's too much. Exhaust, actually.
Yeah, but Bane actually pulled Methanaut into a double taunt there and forced them out to use their own summoners. As Andre, I feel like this is a repeat of game number 1 as NASR are getting caught. It really is a repeat, but this time Joey, I think, may have hit the int button instead of the win button as Joey flashes forward right into Rekna. Dark Binding lands, double pull in from Babane, and this is not looking good for Queso. Things got a little bit crazy, and NASR 3-1 up on the game.
Another game where Team Queso used all 4 flashes.
This time it did not work.
This time it didn't go well. 90% of people think that Team Queso are going to win this game as well. And early game has not started off too well. Maybe a few people might wanted to change the bets after the few of the flashes. No,
stakes were down. You're not allowed to take them back at this point. I mean, to be fair, both teams have been playing for quite a while today. Like, NASR have obviously been waiting, but this flash forward from Joey is a little inexcusable.
Yeah, and even Methanaut afterwards as well tried the E-flash afterwards. It didn't land as well. Andreas and Veos already used their flash, and it was actually Babunya who actually flashed in as well. Got 1 kill and also got the 2nd kill onto the Galio as well. So this time, it's actually NASR with a little bit of a gold lead now as well. It's a little under 1,000 gold, but it's again what they're going to do with this gold lead, as Reckoner's having a bit of a better time in the mid lane this time on a comfort pick.
Oh, Sneaky, there's the ultimatum, jumps on top, picks up a kill. Oh, it trades 1 for 1. Queso is still so messy in this exchange. Like, NASR, they'll be happy with that.
They'll be totally happy with that 1 versus 2 situation. You trade 1 for 1 as well. Reckoner now clears the wave in the barrel lane as well. Reckoner's getting quite a lot of gold this game. Already has 3,100 gold, which is about 300, 400 gold more than anyone on the side of Team Queso. And even though it's not in the jungle this game, it's now in the mid lane, which I think is where like the flexibility really comes in for NASR, is that these champions, multiple people on their roster, multiple players on their roster, can play these champions. Yeah. Now, Reckoner's on the Jace instead of Sweat this time, but it's a really, really good start for him. And actually, Hullbreaker, first item Jace.
Yeah, already picked up early Hullbreaker. I mean, it's the rare Andre struggle bus game where he's 0-2 and is like trying to extend. It's not necessarily his fault. I mean, this is Team Queso's playstyle that we've come to know in Europe. Is like they try and push the advantage through Andre, and when it doesn't work, it really falls like all on his shoulders and looks really bad. But it's not necessarily an individual performance that is going wrong. It's like if Queso all overextend for the jungle, then he ends up like 0-5. So it's rare, but it happens. And Team Queso need to now settle and slow down a little bit on some of these plays and play around vision control. This is one of the first times we're seeing teams handshake over objectives today. And I think it's the right call out of Queso to make sure that they're not contesting a fight early now and losing this game quicker than they would like to. I mean, Queso want to try and steady the ship and of course come and 2-0 this. And to do it, they're going to have to at least kind of like recontrol the way that they've been playing emotionally through this game.
Calm down a little bit as well.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, I think Ryu explained it quite well on the analyst desk, is that sometimes Team Queso can be very coin flippy, and I feel like that was a really, really good moment where you can see that Team Queso were trying to coin flip. They were trying to use the flashes that they had available on the side of, you know, Veos, Andreas, Joey, and Methanaut, but the flashes actually just backfired completely for them, and they weren't able to get any kills at all, and they actually lost a few kills instead. So it's the early game a little bit. The package is available for Joe, but with no objectives available, it seems like the package is potentially just going to be used. I think you just used it now in the mid lane because it probably just expired.
Right.
Items across the board, no real surprises. I actually wanted to talk a little bit about Joey's build on Corki, which has been quite interesting. He goes Stormrazor Infinity Edge, and then he goes Essence Reaver afterwards, which is the one that gives you, you know, restores the extra mana. Sometimes you see Essence Reaver as a first item for Corki because you're using abilities a lot as Corki, you're using the rockets a lot, but instead Joey likes to prioritize that Stormrazor IE combo, which we've seen a lot on these hyper carries like Jinx and Kaisa.
Well, at least it's not Black Cleaver Leandris that we saw from Team Dark a couple of weeks back, which NASR now going to take first turret of the game down in that bottom lane. They've been able to outrace the top side push. As I mean, Andre had the Rift Herald, didn't want to use it, wanting to use that in the middle lane and try and take a more important tower on top of it, as they knew they were going to get top anyway. But it does mean they lose out on Tower First Blood gold.
Yeah, they're going to lose out on a little bit of gold, but look, as you just mentioned it, they're going to use it straight in the mid lane as well. And NASR really late to this. You can see there is a bit of a flank, though.
Yeah, Babane goes all the way through the fight and all the way back to the respawn as Rekna now taken out in the back lane. Perhaps this is Queso kind of steadying things as Methanaut and Acolyte are trying to back themselves away. Sneaky gets one kill, gets flipped back under the turret. With the turret aggro, Sneaky doesn't quite drop, but the tower in mid lane was taken down by Andre in the back line. We didn't get a vision of it, but Andre was just quietly chunking that down after he dove through to the back.
Kind of gave me a bit of deja vu in that WREC series. Like, he was just taking the dragon whilst the whole team was just losing the team fight. But he did his job. You know, he got the mid lane tower. The team fight didn't really go in Team Queso's favor, but that was the main reason why they wanted to all group mid lane there. They realized that NASR was grouping 4 players in the bot lane. They wanted to use that and rotate into the mid lane instead of try and break that mid lane tower, which, as I mentioned, quite a lot in my class. Is like, it opens up the map so much. It just allows you to play that little bit more aggressive. It means NASR have to be a little bit more careful because of the flanks, you know, because you got Singe that can jump on to players in the mid lane. You got Acolyte as well with the hook shot that can jump on the mid lane as well and try and catch out NASR, which I think is going to be very, very scary. But for now, we're seeing a little bit of a group in the barrel lane, but I'm not too sure if it's actually going to add up to much.
Yeah, Acolyte is going to put damage down onto Rekna, does get pulled back in. There's the settle. Acolyte overextends. It's, again, Queso, I mean, it was well worked by NASR to actually make sure that they could pick up that kill. But look, Sneaky's pushing down in the bottom lane. Like, he's playing too far up, and Team Queso have come towards Acolyte, and he knows that like the team are coming, but they don't group in time. Like, Methanaut doesn't have his ultimate available, so can't get the save off, and it's loose from Queso. This is the Queso that we've seen losing to the top teams. This isn't the Queso that we've seen challenging the likes of WREC, and we saw that Queso earlier today.
Yeah, definitely, and you can see the little mistakes that Team Queso can make, but I think another main point as well, which we kind of mentioned a little bit in the last game, is that NASR, okay, they're getting these kills, but what are they really getting from that? They have, obviously, the Dragon. They're actually down in towers. They're down 2 towers to 1 at the moment. But NASR, they got a kill in the Baron lane. But to be honest, this Dragon's up and everyone's left alive. They weren't able to get any towers for that advantage, for that little pick-off that they got. Okay, they got a kill. It's also nice to get a little bit of gold. But it's just what they use with that advantage, which I think makes a huge, huge difference, especially in Wild Rift as well, because you don't have a lot of time.
Yeah, I feel like NASR have done a good job of getting a lead here, and I think we've seen where they've been able to prioritize their strengths. I think there's a little bit of a amount of decisiveness that is not there, where it's just like, okay, kill, get an objective, like go right into it. You can see whereas Queso is so quick to be like, Andre's on top side, we know we can get Rift Herald, take it, okay, let's go now, what's the next play coming up? And I feel like that's what, especially playing against the top teams like WREC and GameLord, you have to do against the European teams. Not that it's specific to Europe, but like GameLord and WREC will beat you in 12 minutes if you're not playing quickly. If you're trying to play slow, they're going to smash you out of the game. And Queso are used to playing at that pace, and I don't know how much NASR were challenged through the regular split of playing that quickly and that cleanly.
As we mentioned, we watched a little bit of NASR, especially against Parler as well. We saw this like super.
We've casted them in the past as well.
Exactly. Before the WREC, we cast them a little bit as well, and we know that they can be this super aggressive team. But again, there's so many factors that could come into it. It could be the LAN environment, it could be that killer instinct as well, which I think you mentioned a little bit as well. It's just trying to be decisive and trying to make that decision and just making sure that you're all on the same page as well. As this game's kind of slowed down a little bit as I say that.
Bot lane dive off the top play as well, as that's the kill going down onto Sneaky. Babane is now 1 versus 3, but look, the tower's going to help out a lot. The extra advantage from that damage as Rift Herald was dropped in the bottom lane. That's going to give Andre the ability to go in. Babane doesn't quite have the cooldown to get a shield back available again, and that means Team Queso will just about get a gold lead nearly there. It's 200 between the two teams as NASR are going to try and hold on to it. They're putting damage down onto Veus in that middle lane, and Joey's going to give the assist just to get him out of there. Rift Herald charges in, and Team Queso will now be up to 4 towers once this falls. And after a few shaky moments in the game, I think this is when NASR's pace has slowed down too much and has allowed Queso into the game for this one. And I know we're focused a lot on Team Queso, and I think people are going to be like, well, why are you focused on Queso? For me, they are the team that should be winning this series, but NASR have looked a whole lot better against what Queso have brought to this specific game. I just want to see NASR play a little quicker, a little bit more decisive.
I think NASR have definitely been competitive.
Yeah, they have.
Even in the first series that they lost, 2-0 to REC, I feel like they've definitely played very positive. But I think it's just the macro game, and I think it's just the rotations around the map that NASR are a little bit off to like these big European teams. Against REC, they were just rotating. REC were rotating
This is
around
good
the
though.
map.
I like this play, at least in theory. Oh, NASR didn't get the turret, but they will get the kill. Sneaky will take it down, and this is the kind of play they needed to make, as top lane had pushed out. But Andre, you cannot be here. That's 1 versus 5 in this situation, and he's going to get run down. Blast Cone is going to be able to get him out. He uses a lot to get out of it, and now it's Acolyte that's caught, but Hookshot is going to get Camille out. You cannot chase a Camille down very easily. She is way too mobile and goes from top lane all the way to bottom lane, flashes over the wall. Hookshot should be up soon. Ragnarok used Acolyte. Hookshot's over, runs into Sneaky. Sneaky doesn't have his ultimate available, but will get the silence. It took everything from NASR to run that Camille down in the end of all things. But Queso, this is what I mean about it being just a bit too scrappy.
I think, like you said before that team fight really happened, is that you want to see NASR do this. You want to see NASR group as well. You want to make sure that NASR group up together, and they want to try and take that advantage, that little bit of a gold lead that they have. That you want them to group up. You want them to try and do that. But Rekna in this mid lane on the Jace. We saw the Jace in last game. It was on Swess that had a little bit of gold. This time it's Rekna with all the gold as well. We're going to look at the replay. Again, it's NASR that are grouping together. They get a nice binding onto Galio, which allows them to use that suplex to jump away as well, which was really, really well played by NASR. And then they tried to catch out Andreas. They weren't able to catch out Andreas. But then again, it's kind of like a bait game, really, because they spent so much time on Acolyte trying to kill Acolyte that they didn't really get much from it, to be fair. 9 kills to 6, though. They do have 2 dragons. They're a little bit behind on towers, but they still do have that little bit of a goldie. So this is definitely a lot more of a competitive game than the first one.
Especially with Rekna being so strong, like the amount of gold he's got and really gives him fighting power. Even though Hullbreaker is about a split push item, like Jace still has a lot of poke damage from afar, and it's not so bad to group with the team like this. Andre's going to show bot lane, and this is the moment where I'd expect NASR to just throw everything at middle lane. This is where you have to fight. Like, Andre is not going to be caught on the bottom lane. He should not die down there, so you have to take the fight against the 4. And that right there, if I could pause it and analyze just that moment of the game, I'm like, you have to take that fight. You have to force Queso into a situation where you're like, we have this really strong Jace, let's take the fight in mid lane. And
that's where kind of the nerves and the decisiveness really comes in for NASR. Is like, you feel like they can make a play and maybe they don't really see the opportunity, but they're the opportunities you need to take against these big teams, because if you don't take them opportunities, that means Team Queso were allowed to do that as well.
And Team Queso are allowed to get into the river, get river control, and Andre starts the Drake. Like, it's just so quick on it. Now Andre's still taking it down, and Queso split. Here comes Andre into the back line. Damage from Joey, though, is going to make NASR really struggle, and now Andre's caught on the back line, and this is how split they were, is really going to shut them out. NASR have finally found themselves a fight. Joey manages to break the chains and get away. That's a big taunt, though, and it was looking good for NASR. Is it still going to be? Yes, they've been able to at least weather the storm. The damage from Rekna is so strong. There was ticking, but it's not enough to pick up the kill, and Acolyte is going to try and take a tower in exchange. Rekna,
can he do that?
Yeah, I think he can with Cool. Cool can kind of kite it, right? Woo, that's about as close as that's going to go. They're going to lose turrets on the top side in exchange. NASR will be able to take it. Please don't take Dragon Aggro. Okay, the honey fruit's spawning soon. Please do not aggro that. He's fine. Okay, woo.
I got so scared there.
Me too. I would have died to that. I know I would have died to that if that was me.
I was really, really scary, but again, Team Queso split up, though. You kind of spoke about a little bit before in the mid lane where NASR were able to make that decisive decision. But this time, look, Andreas, if you look at the right side of the map, you can see Andreas is trying to do the dragon. Rekna flashes in and catches out Andreas. Now, even though they're at a disadvantage on the other side of the map, they got the kill and they were allowed to go in afterwards. And the ultimate from Morgana was huge. Landed onto 3 members on the side of Team Queso. Rekna on a slither of health as well. I think he actually would have died to Ignite if he didn't use stasis there, to be honest with you. So really, really nice stasis there by Rekna. And honestly, NASR, 3,000 goldie now as well. Yeah. They have 3 dragons. The next one's going to be the Elder. If they can get the Elder, look, they're grouping up again. They're trying to get a pick, but they can't really find anyone at the moment. But again, look how split up Team Queso are across the whole map.
This is the thing, is NASR need to make sure they get this engaged to work, and Andre is the one that's in their sights again. Rekna's done a really good job of actually forcing Andre either away from a fight or picking him off early on. That's actually what allowed NASR to take control. This picture-in-picture is going to show that Acolyte is pushing that inhibitor, and he's going to get it before anybody from NASR can really answer. Now we're back to a fight around the Baron as Team Queso will back themselves away. Sneaky's dropping low. I'm doing this all from the health bars.
No.
Sneaky is going to get 1v1'd, and Acolyte is going to say, welcome to the WREC Finals for Sneaky, or maybe it's goodbye from it as Acolyte is getting the exit. Not quite. It's REC picking up the kill, but meanwhile, the other side of the map, Team Queso have found the engage they were looking for. Galio lands a triple taunt. It forces out the ultimates from NASR. It's going to back this fight away, but Inhibitor cracked in the bottom lane for Team Queso is going to be constant pressure against NASR.
And I think the main important thing about that as well is that it's on the split side of the Baron map as well. So you're going to have that pressure in the bot lane now, the pressure in the Dragon lane, but now that allows Team Queso to play around this Baron until really that Elder Dragon comes up, because I feel like when the Elder Dragon comes up, NASR are going to want to fight for it because they want to try and get the Elder Dragon. If they can get Elder Dragon with 4 dragons that they're going to get if they take that, and Team Queso can't give that up for free. But now I feel like is where the window comes in for Team Queso is to take a look at the Coca-Cola pop-off play. You can see this is back at the team fight from before where Andreas does get caught in the bottom side of the map. But look at Morgana. There you go. The perfect ultimate onto 2 members. Doesn't actually stun anyone, but it's just a zoning control. It means that Veos had to flash away. Joey had to Valkyrie away, which allowed the rest of his team to group up afterwards as well, after picking off Andreas down in the bot side. And you can see the players as well. They're starting to get a little bit of a belief now, I feel like, NASR, with this goal lead and everything as well. We're going to have to see how Team Queso use this bot side pressure, though, with that inhibitor this time around.
You can see the tension for NASR. This is do or die for their tournament. They are 1-0 down in this series. A loss here would be elimination from the WREC finals as Team Queso would be looking to advance to day 3, our playoff games, as they will likely await Game Lord. I don't want to say that it's a foregone conclusion, but this is for the 2nd seed out of Group A. We expect Game Lord to be seed 1 out of Group B. WREC's already in playoffs as the 1st seed from this group after a 2-0 win over NASR and a 2-1 win over Team Queso earlier today. 25 seconds till Elder Dragon spawn. Baron is up and available, but I feel like Acolyte has an inhibitor in his sights. If NASR stray too far away from top lane, that's going down very quickly.
Yep, he has a Hull Breaker now as well. He has 4 items as well, 15,000 gold. But REC still has the most gold in the entire game right now. I feel like kind of everything is on REC's shoulders because the rest of his team doesn't have that much gold.
Oh,
this could be a pick, though.
They've found Sneaky, put a lot of damage down, and this time there's a couple of Guardian Angels out. Package used in order to create some space. Andre has a Guardian Angel, so he at least can play a little bit on the edges. Acolyte, they're buying time for that top lane push for Camille, and NASR are already responding to it. Remember, though, they're getting peeled across the map because bottom lane will push. The inhibitor is under threat. Queso want to go down for Elder. Sneaky has already not been able to defend that tower once, and now it's the inhib from topside. Methanol lands a triple taunt. It's all about buying time because that Camille is pushing top lane as well. Stasis force means REC is not forced to use his Guardian Angel from that. It does not get used in this exchange. I don't know that NASR can actually take this Elder Drake from this. There's too many minions pushing into their base, and Queso have a little bit too much strength here. REC is still very low health. Teleport coming through from the base. That's Joey coming back into the fight. Swest is going to try and put some damage out in his response. Joey melts immediately, but in the base.
Look at the base, look at the base, look at the base.
Going to do it.
They're going to do it.
Secure the 2-0 victory for Team Queso to advance in the WREC playoffs.
What a huge play by Acolyte, and I feel like that was what they were playing for. They were just playing as a distraction for Acolyte. Acolyte already won the 1v1 against Sneaky before, and they won it again. And even though NASR were trying so hard, because I feel like if NASR take that Elder Dragon, they're going to be able to take the game with 4 dragons as well. But meanwhile, while that was all happening, Acolyte in that Baron lane, 1v1 Sneaky in the Baron lane, able to get the inhibitor, and also just kept on pushing with the Hull Breaker as well, and eventually got the Nexus. You can see for the players as well, they are absolutely ecstatic that they're able to go through to the playoffs.
Hull Breaker breaking hearts as well for NASR at this point. Of course, this is the elimination point for NASR. respect shown from Team Queso to NASR. A very hard-fought game, and you know, I think NASR, there were certainly moments where they were contending there against Queso. I mean, they slowed Queso down in game 1 of the series. Game 2, NASR were in control for a rather large portion of it as well, and I think there were a couple of moments where if you were quicker to an objective or a little bit more capitalizing on the spot that they had, I think NASR could very well have taken this to a 3rd game.
Well, I definitely agree with you. I think the first game they got a little bit too far behind in the early game, but this game they were much more competitive. And I feel like even though NASR are knocked out as well, I feel like it was a really, really tough group for them overall anyway. You're playing against REC and Team Queso in a group as well, and when you're playing against 2 of the best teams in Europe, it's good. It's absolutely crazy how Team Queso and REC were able to get out of this group. I felt like it wasn't really easy for them. You know, REC versus Team Queso was the big one, and then you had Team Queso. Even though it was a 2-0, it wasn't an easy series against NASR.
No, it wasn't easy, and I think like we saw kind of every shade of Team Queso that we've seen throughout Europe, where we've seen like the Andre Popov games, we've seen like the kind of Queso falling apart games where you're like, oh, that was a rough game from them, and that was kind of the last game there. I think for NASR, there's a lot to build with that. I think, you know, when we've cast them against a lot of European teams, I think it's been a similar story where I think it purely is just kind of like, for lack of a better term, like reps of playing more against the likes of REC and Game Lord and Queso and Formulation, the teams that are here, I think is going to allow NASR to kind of build on this in seasons to come. And I think there's some bright sparks there on the players. Like Ragnar looked great in that last game. That's enough for us for today. That's enough from the cast desk. We're going to head over to the analyst desk to wrap up the day.
Thank you very much, Stress. Thank you very much, Stuart. This is the most epic way to end a series with the backdoor nonetheless. It was Camille, it was Acolyte again popping off.
I love how Acolyte, like regardless of the enemy, you know, NASR had 2 hole breakers, but Acolyte by himself, without a hole breaker, just single-handedly split pushed the game to a win, Noah.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's Camille. She doesn't need a breaker to split push. I mean, she just melts those towers. But the fact is that Carmeline, Acolyte after the game got a bit sloppy after we get to see Team Queso, you know, having a hard time in the team fights versus NASR decided to do their dirty job all across the sideline.
I want to make a request here, and is in League of Legends PZ, we've got the backdoor called Expected for that famous play. Can we call the backdoor in War Rift the Acolyte, please?
I mean, we need our rights. Yeah,
please. Thank you, please.
We need it. Acolyte did an Acolyte. Are we all agree about
please.
it? Yeah, okay.
I mean, it was pretty fun play. I mean, also the minions did a lot of work. They were pushing from both sides, but yeah, Acolyte was an amazing play. It was really, I mean, Acolyte really showed not just this game, but actually throughout the whole day, also early against Random. This guy is solid, like definition of solid. He understands when to be on the side, and he understands when to join the team fight. We saw in this specific game, he was annoying for NASR. They always had to consider him. They were winning a fight. Oh, it's going so well. Oh, Acolyte is on the other side of the map, taking out turrets. And earlier today against REC, he was also flanking with Remington and turning fights around. I think Acolyte has really been the unsung hero of Team Queso today, and I think even though they went down and losing to REC, I mean, today again, they showed that he's just phenomenal. I think really Acolyte, the unsung hero of Team Queso.
Yeah, exactly, Rio. And I feel like indeed we perhaps haven't given enough credit to some of the players of Team Queso, right? Like in the beginning, right after that first game, we were like, oh, come on, you guys are all funneling into Andres, but then they proved us wrong completely. They showed that Joey can carry the game, Methanot can carry the game on the support. They showed that Vegos on the Singed in the mid lane can carry the game, and now Acolyte as well. Every single player from Team Queso has it, and they showed it here, and they'll show it tomorrow as well.
Yeah, definitely. You mentioned the thing, and it's been the 4th thing in a row for Team Queso. Like, something is happening with this pick. Like, I'm, you know, it's a power pick by now, and that has had a very hard game on the scenes because it had the Morgana just in front of him with the Black Shield all the time ready, and you need to credit that to NASR. But the fact is that, Carmeline, the game started not the best way for Team Queso, let's put it that way.
Ooh, I mean, I think they made quite a few mistakes, maybe underestimating NASR. In this case, as we've said several times, NASR's early games are amazing. So, I mean, I have to say, that Joey flash wasn't the best.
Things happened in that play, definitely. I mean, it caught us by surprise, Hells.
I'm not sure if it was a misclick or if he genuinely thought that he could 1v4 them with like no mana and no
No
HP.
way, no way.
Let's just say that it
He
was a
believed in
misclick.
the play. I mean,
Let's just say that it was a misclick, you know, just to save Joey right there.
yeah, definitely. But the fact is that after that play, the game was so complicated for Team Queso. And NASR got the game so online for them to grab it. But after that, it was Acolyte, it was the backer, and it all ended around the Drake, sincerely. We're gonna get to see the play of the game of this last game of the day. It's been a long day.
Is it the Acolyte play? No, it isn't.
Oh, this team fight.
This is the last team fight, in fact, because they're playing over the Ocean Drake.
Oh, true.
And I remember Hells saying, you can let them have this Drake. But the fact is that they didn't. The game ended in there.
Acolyte just won the game, Ryu.
This guy's amazing again. We can talk about it as much as we want, but I think one of the other things I want to talk about, we're not going to see NASR anymore in this tournament, but I think they deserve to get a little bit of spotlight, because I think they showed today against WREC, one of the best teams in Europe, that they can dominate the early game. They had a fantastic invade. They showed WREC, we can play you guys in the early game.
Yes.
WREC then decided to show the macro play over the long area of time, and they couldn't keep up. And even here, again, TQ, they were able to find leads in the early game. This team is, I think it's really sad that they're going home with a 0-4 record. I think they're a lot better than what the records show. And yeah, I mean, we saw Regna and Swiss popping off today, and even cool effects with some fantastic Morgana damage in those those heavy team fights. I think it's sad to have a 0-4 record. I think they're much better than this, and I think they made Turkey proud.
They will come back stronger for the next time, I would say.
Now they only have one last chance here, which is Parla Esports.
Yes.
Will Parla Esports be able to break the curse and finally get through the group stages?
It's going to be tough for them as well, I have to say, but that's going to be in the Group B for tomorrow. Because I want to talk about Health. This has been maybe the most tactical game we had so far in the tournament. Like, Team Queso realized that they weren't able to 5v5 all the time, to fight constantly, and they play more around the map than in the team fights, and it worked out.
Yeah, for sure. Like, it was quite surprising that we would get such high-level gameplay between NASR Esports and Team Queso. Like, I indeed feel like this game was like the highest level gameplay, macro-wise as well. Like, Acolyte split pushing at the right times, the team fights, the ganks, the plays. Like, I really loved how this game turned out, indeed.
And I also think another thing to add with Team Queso's team fighting is that Zed is a champion. If you pop Stoneplate, you have a lot of health points. Zed is gonna demolish you. And at no point did TQ allow Babanis to get one of those huge Zed smashes in the team fights. They understood, we don't pop Stoneplate before Zed uses ultimate. We don't stand between Zed and our rest of the team, so you can pop the whole the tank into the rest of the team and do a lot of damage. They never made that mistake.
Yes.
And that made the game incredibly hard for Babanis to play. I think Babanis is a great player. We know him. He's a really, really good player. But Team Queso didn't give him a chance to pop off, and that's it.
Definitely, but I like that we get to see more sides from Team Queso, you know, because otherwise it was going all bad. To be Andrew said, you were talking about Yowie carried the game, Acolyte carried out the game, and that's what Team Queso needs to face the playoffs. Guys, we're gonna get to know who's gonna be the MVP for this series so far, but I have a name in my head.
This could be anyone.
It could be anyone. I mean, I would say Acolyte, and
Yes.
it is
It's gonna
Acolyte
be
at the end of the day. We
How
were talking about it.
predictable.
You know what I love? I love that it says 2.0 KDA. Probably the lowest KDA we're going to see from an MVP in this entire day. But this guy, I mean, the side pushing, I mean, this guy understood exactly where to be and when to do it.
We had a KVA today for the MVP of 31, and I was like, dude, that's enough.
But I mean, it's not about KDA, it's about to know what you have to do and to deliver in the very same matter. Like, I remember giving an MVP to a guy that was 0-6-11, but he vectored the same way and won the game. It's like, you have to do what you have to do, Hells.
Yeah, I guess TDA, turret death ratio, would be the ratio to look at for Acolyte right there.
Damage to turret from coming out. That's the start.
He would have had a very high one for that, because he literally pushed all of the turrets and the Nexus by himself. It didn't really matter who he killed. He just finished the game.
And every single time they tried to chase him, he would burn several flashes and buy 30-40 seconds of time before they could even kill him. I mean, Acolyte, I don't know, like this. I think I talked about this earlier today again with Random, and like he understands how to play top lane. You don't have to pop off. You don't have to kill everyone. You can just, be annoying.
Okay, writing down the top lane is about to be annoying. Thank you very much.
Top lane in a nutshell,
right? For your analysis, guys at home, take notes. Out of this, it's all about being annoying, but that's a fact. Sometimes, like if you can't win in 5v5, you have to be annoying. You have to, gather the attention, make them use resources to chase you down, waste them down. Guys, this has been our day. Formulation Gaming won versus Unicorns of Love this year in our playing matchups. Then it was WREC versus NASR this year as well. We got our first third map in WREC versus Team Queso, really close series. As this one could be, Team Queso versus NASR finally ended up being a this-year, but NASR put up one huge fight. And tomorrow, it's gonna be the Group B. Game Load, Parla Esports, Formulation Gaming. Two of these teams are gonna face WREC and Team Queso in the playoffs. Caroline, what's going on?
I don't know. I got suddenly surprised by.
Suddenly surprised.
I was looking forward to the quarterfinals already for some reason.
Oh.
Forgot that WREC existed.
This is our schedule for tomorrow. Game Load versus Parla, Parla versus Formulation Gaming, and Formulation versus Game Load. And I also have to ask, Game Lord, huge favorites, not the match,
So obviously Game Lord is a favorite, but now, after seeing Formulation's performance, I would put I wouldn't necessarily say they're better than Game Lord or anything like that, but I would say they're at the top as well. Like they're on par with WREC and Game Lord. I almost want to say it, but I'm not quite sure if I can say that all the way, Ryu.
I think that's it's a stretch to say. Today we saw Formulation beat Unicorns of Love, a team that comes from Russia, a minor region, if I may say so. So I don't think they have been challenged quite yet. Unicorns of Love is a great team, but that's a long way from being a great team to be Game Lord. Game Lord, #1 seed.
Yeah.
Can we not forget about Parla? Because Parla have fought so hard. I think they had in total 7 games to get here. They 2 games out of a 5-game series, so 5 games versus NASR, and another 4 games versus Sango. I can bet you they're not going home easily.
No, they are also huge warriors, and Parla is it's gonna put up one huge fight. Guys, this has been all for today. It's been a long day, plenty of work. Thank you very much for you guys being with us. Tomorrow, we will come back with the Group B. Thank you guys on this. We get to see tomorrow with the Group B in the WREC Championship Finals. We love you.
Bye.